Hello and good evening, good afternoon. You're watching the Policy Times. Policy Times is one of world's unique policy and development platform. And I, as editor of the Policy Times, is always extremely happy and excited to host some of our experts to discuss about various developmental issues which we do regularly. Now, within the Policy Times framework, our Unleashing India Global Web Summit series has uh, achieved its unique position in terms of bringing the thought leaders of India and across the world who are sharing their experience, their thoughts, and their suggestions of how we can achieve national reincarnation. Now, this is an episode which is, or this is a series which is hosted by one of our most loved, Dr.P.Sekhar, who is also chairman of Unleashing India and Global Smart Cities panel. But due to some reason, we will be, hosting it together. I have two very eminent speakers with whom we will discuss. The topic that we have decided today to discuss is of paramount importance: the enhanced role of experts on sales strategy and financial planning. Sales and financial planning are the unique things in business, and I will come back to how they are relevant. The first slide that Dr. Shekhar always shares is uh, a little glance about India. India, as he says, that it's a combination of many countries together. One of the second most populous country of the world, uh, one of the top 10 GDP, economies, top 10 economies of the world in terms of GDP. It has it has almost everything, whether the coastline to the population, human resource to technology, to in whatever front we say, India has made its unique position in the world. And the discussion started in the context of COVID because COVID is something which is nothing less than a third world war. And how COVID has changed the way we live in the society has made a unique position in our life. And whatever it's been more than 1.5 years, and COVID has impacted our life, though the numbers are still not very large, but the economic damage that the COVID-19 has impacted or given to the society is huge. Hence, we cannot ignore. But here are the numbers about COVID. Now I'll come back to the topic that we're going to discuss. There are, whether it is from the economist point of view, like countries or nations point of view, or individual point of view, sales or raising revenue is the backbone. Polycetine itself being a startup, when we started, we never realized how sales is important for the organization. But as the time grew, we started realizing revenue and sales is the backbone of business. And the traditional saying as 95% of business fails within first 5 years of their business operation is primarily because of a poor sales strategy. This chart gives a small reflection of various dimensions of sales, where it is team management, project, market, or management, or innovation goals, all are somehow connected with sales. So financial planning is the other ones. Financial planning is way beyond or a larger picture of the organization's overall financial management, and financial planning takes a lot of other factors, including your cost, your this gives a little picture about a broader picture about sales and financial planning. It is the financial pyramid where you can see we have the risk foundation, investment, insurance. Then how much is your idle investment or idle foundation that is there? Ideal foundation, actually, this is the picture of. Then your goal, your net worth, cash flow, again, insurance, emergency fund, how much you have, because there are a lot of points that we will discuss. Our experts will talk and give us a little glimpse about the financial planning. Now, here is again a couple of factors or objective of financial planning. Why financial planning is important? You need always adequate fund. If you are always short of fund, you will have massive problem in running your business. The second is the cost is the biggest factor for startups, also for big firms. How do we minimize our cost? And then finding a right balance of cost and revenue. If you don't, then a lot of troubles are there. Flexibility, simplicity, long-term approach. Long-term approach is extremely important for business. Now, here are a couple of types of financial planning as shown in the graph. We need to do proper investment planning. We need to manage our cash flow. Insurance planning is important, though many organizations do not understand the relevance of insurance planning. And so is the tax planning. We often underestimate the importance of insurance and tax planning. Children's future planning, real estate planning is extremely important, for business owners. How do we then retirement planning? These are a little glimpse of the different aspects. Liquidity, then contingency, uniformity, simplicity. A lot of factors are there to decide our financial plan, whether what is the nature of the industry, nature of business, goodwill of the enterprise, future plans, availability of sources, then general economic condition of the nation or countries, then government control. Here are a couple of, again, factors for us. Now, this is the most important part of the Unleashing India Global Web Summit series. Secure governance is a strategy through which a nation or government can, define a very unique development strategy with very low level of investment. Different countries invest massive amount of money, whether it is Middle Eastern countries, China, America, or Europe. If you see the national budgets for development, the amount is massive. Now, for countries like India, which is always like a mixed country, we have a small amount of money, small amount of resources. We always have small of everything. Now, how a nation like India, with the limitations of its resources and availability of resources, how do we make a very nice comprehensive strategy so that we achieve the same outcome like the West and China and Europe with much more lesser or minimal amount of resources? Is all about secure governance. So under secure governance, we try to see a broader picture of how we can achieve national reincarnation with minimal resources. Now, to talk further on the topic that we are deciding and discussing today, I'm really excited and happy to announce and welcome Ms. Mansi Khanolkar ma'am, who is a super women achiever, deeply associated with trade and social organizations, also founder chairman of Strategic Advisors and Financial Consultants. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining. And I have Mr. Srikanth PJ, who is a reputed speaker, a business process expert, coach, and additive manufacturer. He is more actually famous in 3D printing. And we have been discussing how the viability of 3D printing is and how it is going to transform Indian manufacturing and industry. He's also an expert on sales skills and SAAS and many other management print services. So with this, may I request and go to our panel. I'll request Srikanth sir to kindly, the initial part would be to kindly introduce yourself, maybe in 3 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes. If you can share your journey, the growth, the achievements a little, and then I'll go to Mansi ma'am to quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll go to the topic.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Akram. And can you see my screen? Just going to share my screen.
Yeah, we can see, sir. Please go on.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Mr. Akram Haque from the Policy Times, and Dr.P.Sekhar, who's missed some work. But really a privilege to be with the series of Unleashing India Global Web Summit series post COVID-19 devastation. It's a lot of things, a lot of topic have been covered in the past, and I've been going to pick up a leaf from Dr. Sekhar's research and strategic presentations over the I think 16th part of it, and we are on the 117th one. And thank you very much, Akram, for giving me the opportunity. A quick roll about my journey, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the sales strategies, the first part, and later about the sustenance part, which is very interesting, combining technology, the trend, and the sustenance of growth, and also the secure governance, which I will cover in the second part. So just about a little bit about my journey so far. I'm a mechanical engineer from the PSG College of Technology with a background in CAD/CAM, graduated in '88, and then went on to do Leicester, University of Leicester MBA somewhere in 2001 amidst work, and that was a good combination. It's a year of age of 30 where I could do my MBA, because it's a mixture of industrial experience and work, which would really give me a good exposure to the MBA there. So the India stint of my work tenure started with CA Tires, a conglomerate from the RPG, and then with Godrej CAD/CAM in the electronic business equipment group. The reason I'm saying all this is it'll give you a little bit about how the sales journey has been and how that has affected the strategies on sales and how is it transformed myself. And therefore, people are watching today can also see about the ups and downs. It's not just everything is up, but it's also about the downs you have sometimes had. So you can really pick up on the topic of national reincarnation, how India can really grow today from what we were doing and what we are today. So in the Middle East, from '93, working for a computer company in Saudi Arabia, managing the CAD division, and then on to managing 12 countries and CAD/CAM, basically in product management, marketing, business development. A very, very profound movement, because that's where I learned my sales skills, and that's where I learned the program called SPIN selling, and that really helped me a lot. And as you see here, no brick and mortar is moved toward without a drawing on paper. So OCA was one of the largest companies who printed wide format drawings across the globe on every major infrastructure project, whether it's a railway, seaway, airport, or major projects. No other company printed so many drawings across, apart from the other conglomerates. So you can see like Xerox, etc. So I was running the business development part of the region and managed services through the company there, and then went on to do my own business and management services, which running a startup to $1 million company for the iconic projects of Dubai, including the tallest tower, Burj Khalifa. And then also moved into, you can see the journey from print into document management. We digitized Saudi Aramco's gas plant in collaboration with a company called Service Point in the UK. Also did some mergers and acquisitions where documents were available on a portal, and we could just bring them into merger and acquisition, which brings you the cloud computing part way back in 2006, 2007, which led me into the enterprise document management field. And then, of course, with a little bit of downturn, moved into India for the UK and US companies, and then in my stint on 3D printing, which is going to be covered in the second part. With the patent expiring in 2012, there was a boom of desktop 3D printers, which brought us onto the vast amount of 3D printers today available in the market, where from 2014, it created a huge industrial growth. And at CAD Center, it also gave me a lot of connect with academia, 3D printing forums, and design and manufacturing, which I will talk about it a little later. So that's a little bit on my journey just before 2016. And from 2016 to 21, acquired a retail business and supplies business and a franchise model called Cartridge World. And over the years, trained over 1,500 professionals with the same concept of SPIN, which I had kind of caught me as a bug in 1995. The book on Neil Rackham, which is still popular today, is one of the best books on consultative selling. And I'm going to pick up a few leaves from that today, where I really trained corporates and like NTC Logistics, Don Rex, and all of them gave me a good opportunity. And I've trained the Indian Postal Department, TVS Motors, and RXG India as well. So I also did a stint on government project on print management for managing a large asset base of printers. And finally, today, a consultant for 3D printing, so to say, additive manufacturing, which is now graduated from the source, so to say, the small 3D printers to the well-established industrial 3D printing, so-called additive manufacturing, to connect the industry to digital manufacturing and also the future factory, which I will also be addressing in the next part. So, Mr. Akram, if you allow me to go directly into the sales strategies now.
We'll take the introduction from Mansi, and then we can do that. So thank you so much, Srikanth, for giving your detailed profile, and that shows your journey. You have done MBA in 2001, where MBA was a very hot cake in the market, and then before that, your mechanical engineering, which was again a very bright field to work on. So, and then working in India and Middle East, coming back to India, and contributing in the journey is going to be very exciting to hear from you further. So now may I go to Mansi ma'am, and you can kindly introduce and share a few points about your achievement and journey.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Akram, and thank you, Dr. Sekhar, for giving us this platform, this opportunity to present ourselves. About my journey, my name is Mansi Khanolkar. I was with Bank of Bahrain and Kuwait for almost 20 years. In 2010, I left the bank and I started my own organization by the name of Strategic Advisors, wherein initially my focus was to support SMEs, to do handholding with the SMEs. Because what I realized that in SME sectors, the promoters are, their concepts are very clear, they're good at their business. But as long as finance is concerned, it was lacking. So I thought, to being a banker, I can be a value addition wherein I can bring the awareness of a lot of products which are available, banking products or instruments which I'm talking about, which will help them to, reduce their cost of funds. That's how I started, catering to SME sectors. And then slowly I realized there is a huge potential, for their growth. And that's how I got into a debt syndication when, I started arranging ad hoc limits for them, giving them going for multiple banking and, project finance, So that's how I started getting into a debt syndication. Post-COVID, now, if we have to talk about, I could see that SMEs were, going through a very bad phase because liquidity was a crunch, a lot of, receivables were stuck. Wherein I feel that there is my requirement, my need for them to, give them a legal and kind of a, paralegal support. So the promoters, which were very serious and, which were having willingness to carry on the businesses, even though the huge losses, post-pandemic they suffered. So then we started giving them a legal and paralegal support. And some of the SMEs, they were not, in the NPA category, but I could see that they're, fully exhausted on the limits, and huge orders on hand and how to cater them. So that's how, and they don't even have the, good collateral available to give it to the bank. So banks were very reluctant. If you don't have a sufficient collateral, they cannot give you the additional limits. In that case, we got into a private equity, and that's how we started arranging FDI, ECBs. We got good investors for them. So that's how is my journey, as long as Strategic Advisors is concerned. So
thank you. Thank you. Very, very important, in fact, ma'am. And the way you sacrificed your banking, high-profile banking jobs and started handling the startups also shows that your sympathy and empathy for the corporate world as well as for the strugglers, especially the startups. I now come back to Srikanth again, and may I request you to kindly give an elaborative speech or note on the topic that we have.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Mansi and Akram. As I'm just going to share the screen again about the sales strategies. I guess you can see my screen now.
Yeah, we can see.
Yeah. So straight away jumping into what leaders are doing today. It's a post-COVID-19 devastation, and that's the scenario we're in. And this I picked up from a few researchers of the McKinseys and KPMGs. And what they're saying today is that leaders of B2B in sectors such as automotive, energy, mining, and telecommunication are trying to mitigate the economic fallout of COVID-19 and the human toll by actually first giving priority. We are looking at sales strategies, but their priorities are first about workplace safety, increasing liquidity, and keeping supply chains moving. Strategically, finance is becoming very key. As we talked today, a very nice combination of sales and finance. So if you look at it, they are also looking at increasing liquidity, Mansi ma'am. So that's the key today. Before we go, even looking at strategizing our sales, looking at how to grow further, it's about setting the house in place because they're all coming back from lockdowns, semi-lockdowns, total lockdowns, and so on and so forth. So this is first the chance for the leaders to first make their employees safe, because a safe mind will only be able to then sell or even think about strategizing the company's growth in sales. So in short, the human safety is the first priority. And then the COVID-19 has given us unprecedented complexity into operations. So there's a lot we have seen: supply chain disruption, manufacturing disruption, production disruption, and so on and so forth. So we have to set that. So there's a complex maze out there. So when we looked at the respondents, or the KPMG and McKinsey survey, one of them looked at the respondents, it said 45% believe the economy will rebound in 2 to 3 months. And the 55% balance, which is the higher side of it, is saying it will take 6 to 12 months to, or even longer. So what do we do in this scenario? And still leaders are unsure, even the large companies, B2B leaders are unsure about the lasting financial effects of COVID-19. So under this scenario, under this kind of scenario, how do we then approach sales and how do we strategize? Let me throw a few insights as to what do we do then to follow. Companies, again, McKinsey says, are more likely to thrive if they act aggressively to capture market share during downturns rather than wait for the recovery to begin. So basically, it's not just waiting for your golden eggs to hatch or your big dream projects to come, but just be aggressive, grab onto market share, make your presence felt, because that's what you do in downturns. Make sure that you're popular, you're there everywhere, and okay, you might not get the same kind of margins you got before, but then your presence will be felt everywhere, and you can be sustainable rather than really wait for the recovery to begin. I think a lot of food companies and FMCG companies have started doing that. When the deliveries were not happening, they started delivering through the online network, through these Dunzos, and which is available in the south of India. I don't know about north, but Dunzos has become very, very popular. And then we also have to be agile. And then most importantly, we have to focus on the customer value. What is the customer really valuing today? The values of yesterday is not the new normal today. So the values of themselves changed, because you can't go and start to sell something of value, which you thought of was value pre-COVID, to the value today. So the value situation has itself changed. So you need to offer a new value proposition, a new support system, and be, first of all, as we said, empathetic to the customer, be helpful to the customer. It's not about pushing something about your stocks or what you have in your portfolio, but to really see what value can you bring into the customer. So the value-driven proposition is the clear strategy today, and to support the customer in these times is also, again, a clear strategy. And also, it will be first mover advantage today than any other players cannot match. So if you're there, right there, aggressively, and a first mover advantage will always be more helpful to you. And during the current crisis, it's always the people who first move gain a stronger approach. You can see today that Farm Easy or kind of all these food companies are gaining more advantage because they were the first movers during the pre-COVID times. And today, the Swiggies and some tomatoes are taken over, and they're really, really making a strong approach in sales. So it's also, the research is also showing some changes in consumer behavior. I'll not go through all of them, but I'll just run through a few of them. It says business behaviors, pandemic accelerated changes in consumer behaviors are persist. That is, the virus has interrupted, accelerated, or reversed long-standing consumer behaviors. What does it happen? Everything, most of the activity or every activity and function that could move online did fuel a mass migration, a digital migration. So a lot of activities have moved online. Companies have sent their employees home. Some of them have given away rental spaces, which I know, large rental spaces, and they have moved people back home, and even given away those properties back to the landlords, which means the landlord faces a different role today. And they've also eliminated business travel. So again, these are behaviors which you have to also look at with the consumer, with the B2B as well. And how will your sales strategies change along with this? Because this is how the consumers are behaving today. And many now plan to continue with some kind of hybrid form of remote work and virtual meetings. So it's going to be partially working from home and maybe 1 or 2 days in a week. And then consumers went online to fulfill needs, from buying groceries, taking school classes, to exercise and doctor appointments. And I never thought, I mean, my own family, my son and daughter ordered a refrigerator, a large refrigerator on the online. I never thought that we could do that a few years back. And today, that is the scenario. You can even order a refrigerator, an oven, or whatever things online and get it delivered and get it installed, everything without even connecting physically to a store. Of course, they went and checked out to a store, but that's just about it. And that's all. And businesses also turned into digital tools in new ways. Auto dealerships, when there was a lockdown started, I asked a few auto dealership companies and also a few appliances companies. They started texting, messaging, Zooming, explaining about car models and everything, and they started giving even demos online and selling cars without any contact with customers, and that's happened a lot as well. And fast food restaurants created ghost kitchens, cloud kitchens, and devoted solely to filling on it. We never heard of these names, and they became the chapati walas or the parota walas, and they did deliver some good food. But whether they're coming from a sophisticated kitchen or a ghost kitchen, we never knew. But that's the strategy today. The consumer behavior is changing, and of course, people turn to automation and AI. And today, I talked in the first part of my journey on document management and cloud. But today, looking at it, Google Photos, your maps, and Google Photos is using artificial intelligence, maps to locate your location. With the current situation, so many vendors are easily easily locating us, and that is surging a demand and the need to reduce workplace density. And some of these changes have delivered more convergence and greater efficiency. So it is driving efficiencies to our own cycle. When we had lockdown, I was using Dunzo to deliver rather than my own delivery person. So those things are driving efficiency rather than bringing back people and incurring your costs, particularly with the petrol touching a big 3-digit number today. And more to talk about this behavior. What do we actually see in the social media? Social media saw a very high surge. If you see Facebook at plus 27%, Netflix, and then YouTube's, and this gave about somewhere from 120 million users in January 15 to almost like 160 million users, 200 million users on YouTube and 170 million users on Facebook, and almost like 26 million on Netflix. So that's a huge, massive increase in daily social media usage, and that's a behavioral change as well, which happened. And of course, more people took on to mobile devices. 70% of global internet users are using their mobile devices as a direct result of COVID-19. And online shopping has increased exponentially. The business online went high, and the online business strategies which people did, the sales strategies for putting all of your business on e-commerce platforms or online platforms, resulted in a $73 billion in the US in June, which is just over 76% increase year on year. And that's the rate at which it happened. And online spending is also tracked about holiday season of 2019 in the US. So that's a huge consumer behavior change. Now, amidst this consumer behavior, what can we do? How do we then handle customers? So I will just quickly summarize or kind of give you a snapshot within the short time we have. The model which I embrace is a SPIN model. The SPIN model talks about being empathetic, meaning customer situation. Know the customer situation first. Before you actually even think of selling, those days are gone. The new normal, or the next normal as they call it now, does not need to be pushy, does not need to be persuasive. It does not need to be putting something down the throat. No, that will never happen again. You need to be empathetic, know the customer situation, investigate with a professional language, as they say. I picked up this very recently as to where you can investigate, but what do we investigate? You have to use the professional language which the customer understands and has value for. Something which does not have value has no place with the customer any longer. So if you can understand what the customer wants in his language and translate that understanding of value, understanding into a value proposition, that's again important. And how do you do it? Ask value questions, and it will also be valuable for the customer if those questions raise greater insights for them and greater insights about their business challenges and things which they even don't know. If you raise a business challenge which they have not anticipated and they don't even know about it, and you can bring them alive with the emotions they carry with it, that will be really the problem-solving exercise. And it is always said and done that if you can solve, if you know what the problem is, which is 50% of the cases, you can actually solve the problem. So the very, very fundamental of SPIN is about knowing the situation and the problem solving. And the problem solving is what we are today talking. And then I've picked up something very nicely from David Duncan just about a few days back. He's coming up with a new concept on jobs to be done in this book called The Secret Lives of Customers. And he's talking about the detective kind of a work which you need to do, because it's like a massive mystery. The customer is always a mystery, right? So we need to unwind that mystery, but looking at what are you really trying to do for the customer? What jobs are you trying to be done? And this is becoming like almost like an acronym, jobs to be done. And you need to first understand what is that job to be done at the customer place? What are we trying to do for the customer? And then start again from being empathetic, knowing his problem, knowing his implications out of the problem. If he does not take the decision, and firmly then show him that if he does not take this decision, and more often in B2B applications or B2B scenarios, what will it result in terms of cost, in terms of impact on people, in terms of impact of time, that what we call a PMT, people, money, and time, and then show him the real impact it will cause if he does not make the decision. And remember that if you are value proposition, if you're proposing something and your value proposition is greater than his impact of not taking the decision, only then the balance will tilt. If he thinks that it's inactive or not taking a decision is not going to cost him more, or not going to take his cost too much out of his bottom line, he's not going to act now. He will just wait because it's COVID-19, it's COVID, post-COVID. He'll just wait for the next 6 months, 12 months and see what happens. But if you really can show him the value proposition and the impact it will cost on his business if he does not take it, and in a very firm and a gentle manner. And remember, the gentle and firm is very important, and the jobs to be done is the focus here. And finally, if you can show him the payoff, or we call the trade-off, by taking your solution or adopting your solution and getting that job done, he will be really ready for you And that's really a great strategy today, Mr. Akram, because I think that's the only way we can handle customers, because the customer situation, the language we choose to have, the insights of his business we know, the jobs to be done at his place, and gently and firmly showing him the implications on what he can do, and finally showing them the payoff by adopting his solution. Now, how do we adopt in these scenarios to consumer changes? Another strategy which I can actually say today is, apart from the jobs to be done and the SPIN model, which I just mentioned, which salespeople can readily use, because it's going to be like a skill. And if you learn the skill, the SPIN skilling, you will be able to use it in any situation, any circumstance, and any strategy you want to adopt will apply to this knowledge greatly, and you can try it very much. And of course, people are free to come and look at my LinkedIn profile and subscribe to the program, because that's a very, very great value proposition. It needs sometimes 16 hours or more to really teach that knowledge, and it's really a skill and a sales skill. And the next part, of course, is about the consumer behavior. And what we can do today post-COVID is, every business has gone online. Your shops have become online. So therefore, you need to build brand loyalty, reshape your marketing plan around the e-commerce platforms, around the online shopping behavior, around what people want to do, the reviews they do, the way they shop, the way they talk, the way they look at your mobile phones, and the follow me marketing, and those kind of Google searches which are happening are all changing. The YouTubes which you have, everything is changing today, because you start to look at something and then something else comes on your mobile device and you get distracted and you go off, and by the time you bring back the customer, he's gone. So that loyalty, unless you can build, he will not come back to you to buy what you want to buy. So therefore, the e-commerce capabilities to meet those demands and do the marketing around those capabilities to meet those demands are very, very important to keep the customer engaged. That's what we keep saying, that you need to keep the customer engaged because he's so distracted today, so much of information, so much of chaos around what we can say. And among all those chaos, you need to bring the normalcy for them. And then finally, put a lot of emphasis and experience on your website, because it's no longer the standard traditional website which are changing today. It's changing a lot. The farming for the online telemedicine experience, or whether it's a doctor experience or whatever it is, the experience has to be different on the website. So people have to get a different experience, and therefore try to tweak that a little bit, or even redo that entirely, completely, and in the changing customer behavior, and incentivize for shopping. We've seen that recently Zomato's and Swiggy's are coming back on discounts, which they stopped in between, but they've come back now to again, incentivize the customer to increase the shopping frequency. And most importantly, I think this is kind of a summary to say that keep the customer engaged, interested, build value proposition, provide a unique experience which will have a lasting value on them. And finally, once you can build value, you can also collect that value. And that's little bit what I could say on the sales strategies, Mr. Akram. And finally, today, what will somebody eat today? Whoever is watching today, do you know who decides what we eat and how much we will spend extra? Just guess what? It's these two people who will do tonight as to what we want to eat, and even change what we want to eat, and even spend a little bit extra. Over to you, Akram.
Thank you. Thank you so much for elaborating and making a very detailed presentation on sales strategy. Indeed, we are also very happy that Dr. Sekhar is able to join us here from his mobile. So, sir, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I'll talk for a few minutes just to ensure that, See, the significance of this particular session was sales and something to do with finance and funding. Okay. Now, when some organization funds you, they always would like the sales to be maximum. And the link is that the finance people are more happy when the sales and sales strategies are good. Exactly. Of course, technology, all those things come in picture. But one is beginning, one is the end. Finance is beginning, sales is the end. Once sales is comfortable, one is always, ready to fund. Okay, so that's where our Srikanth's, explanation was extremely good. We have to see that, how, each person can take. One can always give a different type of a feel. Oh, today this is not there, that is not there. But whatever has happened has happened. And in that situation, what we can do, how we can do, why we can do, we have to see. And that's where, of course, Mansi's talk in terms of, how people with the finance background, how will they look at it? What will they do? And of course, he has done some extremely good work on other aspects of finances, getting even something to do with CSR activities. But all this thing has to converge into more employment, more prosperity, more, growth for the country. That means growth for individual is growth for the country. We always don't differentiate between the two. People differentiate growth of the country is different from growth of the individual. From this platform of Policy Times, reincarnation, we believe that unless every individual grows, unless you have the dots, like we say, dots, drop, in ocean, we say it's a drop in the ocean. Unless the drops are there, ocean will not be made. Same way, everybody's prosperity only can give the whole prosperity of the nation. So let us, I'll give it back to Akram only so that continuity can be maintained. I just could come out, in some area where there is signal. Otherwise, I was stuck in a place that was almost zero signal. So I will be hearing it, but Akram, you can take it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, doctor. Thank you for nice to have you.
Yeah, we were missing you. So I come back to Mansi man. You are working for decades now. You're working with startups and MSMEs, and both this sales strategy and financing strategy, financial planning, both are key for business success. If any startup can ensure their sales strategy and financial planning is achieved, I think 60 to 80% of their business and future is secure. How, in your experience, you have been observing startups are acting and reacting and responding to the sales strategy and financial strategy and sales management, and how are you helping and guiding startups in this area?
Yeah. Let me first thank Doctor. He could able to join, and we are really happy to see him. And thank you, Srikanth sir, for giving us valuable inputs and guidance. Whatever I will be discussing now, that will be, that in that case, we need Srikanth sir's help in that. How he can create a kind of a model. See what I feel, Akram, that in this 21st era, every minute is valuable and everything is just moving fast. It's moving fast. And what my SME sector is facing, challenges, what they are facing is banking hours are restricted, movement is restricted. How are we going to, what kind of a ease of business is there? So what I strongly felt here, the feel is that here the Srikanth sir, support is needed, that where, we should have one single platform, for corporates, for banks, for carriers, for trade finances, and for insurers, insurance companies. Wherein because what I've been seeing is that the trade is still governed. And the system is, designed, which is decades of years ago. The same system we have been using, submitting documents to the banks, the bank then intersending those documents to another bank, as long as trade finance is concerned, then getting the acceptances, then discounting the LCs. This is like a very old method has been still used. Now here, what I feel, strongly that we need a kind of a revolutionary, way of trade, which will ensure the speed as well as the security of the trade transaction. Okay. Now, all the sectors which are involved in the trade, when I'm talking about SME sectors, or maybe in case of corporates, there are 5 to 6 sectors which need to be available on one platform. We should have a marketplace, So if you talk about the traders, traders who is worried about their, decreasing sales post-COVID, so how we can help them? Most of the time I've seen, they're muddled about the terms of paperwork, to draft a contract, having problem with KYC every time he proceed with the transactions. I'm talking about the cross-border transactions also. Okay, or maybe worried about the logistic issues. Or he is very, very anxious about which payment method to trust upon, in that case, even for bankers, because I've been a banker, what I feel that for banker who has to go through, piles of papers each day to check whether any fraudulent transactions are there, where any fictitious trade is there, or whether, it's an actual trade. Okay. If you take example of the insurer who has to carry out a rigorous work to check whether the claimants, claim which has come is trustworthy or not. Okay. Or maybe for that reason, if you see the inspection agencies who are trying to increase their clientele, or if you take carrier who is looking out to to spread its reach in different countries, for all these needs of our clients, what I feel, Dr. Sekhar, or Srikanth sir, that we should have a tailor-made web-based solution. a tailor-made web-based solution. I feel, this digitalized solutions will help to streamline and simplify the trade processes here, and that ease of business will be there. So that is what I feel as long as trade finance is concerned. Then comes the sense.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very important points you've made. In fact, that shows that how you are focusing at the policy level in addressing the individual level challenges. I come back to Srikanth sir now for the second round of the presentation, and here we talk about the macro picture. What Srikanth ji wants to mention.
Yeah, thank you very much, Akram. I'll again share screen. This is going to be a very important topic on the socio-economic changes which are happening today, and how is it affecting the country as a large, and how is India transforming, and how can we take that opportunity. And definitely, Ms. Mansi, your finance comes a very important role, and I have a strategy and a kind of a solution for that. So let's look at the trends first to start with. Let me share my screen. Is the screen shared?
No, sir, no.
Okay, I'll just share the screen. Yeah, can you see now?
We can see now, please.
Yeah. So I'm jumping to a completely different hat right now on technology. So this is important to understand where is technology heading. And Ms. Mansi, you are talking about the average trader, and we are also talking about the sales strategies and financially. Now, what is really happening in the marketplace is that the trends have changed. The average worker or the average job which you're talking today is also going to change post-COVID. For example, from the World Economic Forum, there is a huge pace of technology adoption. And, today with every person, you see a lot of memes around in the WhatsApp and other things. Even a person down the street is able to view a laptop and the screen, and he's watching something about something online. So automation and technology has become a very important factor. The speed in which automation is happening today in tandem with the COVID-19 recession is also very massive, with artificial intelligence, virtual reality, 3D printing, and all of these cloud computing. Today, Google Drive is like we would look up on a mobile device, we save something on the drive, we put it into a different presentation. Everything is integrated, right? We never thought about it. Today, Google gives you 15 to 30 MB, 30 GB space. And then just 2 days back, I saw Samsung moving all my data to OneDrive just by a small button, and just said, move all your data to OneDrive. And I didn't know what it was, but I had to securely almost move 33 GB of data into OneDrive. So things like this with the data is becoming more and more important to the driver factor. So as you rightly said, it's not about the paperwork, it's not about the huge thing the trader wants. It has to be simplified, it has to be automated, and technology has come a long way in making those forms simple. Today, a Google form we are using on almost every platform. Very, very simple. We don't need a huge platform to do that. A simple Google form can capture a lot of data. And from that, a lot of other things can happen. But of course, a web-based application or so many apps available today for even these financial transactions are easily available. But then, we're looking at some global socio-economic factors, the skill gaps. I'm going to address a particular topic about skill gaps, more importantly towards the huge drive which Dr. Sekhar was talking about at the smart city panel, at the smart city level, the smart factory level, again at the Prime Minister's level in terms of the Atmanirbhar, the Make in India. So I'm going to touch a little bit about the skill gaps around the jobs to work, the future of work, and how is it affecting the country and the window of opportunity we are having today. And it's not that, as doctor was saying, it's not about the negative. It's a huge opportunity out there available, and we have to change to the changing trends, and that's what we're going to look at in the next few minutes. What the World Economic Forum is talking about is the jobs may be displaced by a shift in the division of labor between humans and machine. So we used to say, like earlier, 10 people used to do one job. Now it's not about 10 people doing one job, 10 machines doing multiple jobs, or even 10 machines doing 100 jobs, maybe, and there are probably one operator operating those 10 machines. So that's the big displacement, and that's a massive change. You are going to have almost like 10 machines being operated by one operator. It's not about taking away humans, but the humans have to be transformed to do something different, something skilled than what they were before, and doing something, operating a different kind of a machine or a mobile device or whatever. And then companies need to invest on better metrics of human and social capital. So in terms of the combination of social capital and the human capital, companies need to be balancing, which is important. Human safety, socializing, and combining technology, all of this is coming into play in the post-COVID situation. And the dual impact of technology and the recession is also impacting a lot in today's scenario. And looking at the main topic of secured governance, I think Dr. Sekhar had put in his presentation on self-sustained education for national growth and reincarnation. It's a very, very important, the fundamental factor today when you look at the marketplace, when you look at the education, and when you look at secured governance. Knowledge of continuous improvement and skill development is very, very important, and not the kind of skills we had yesterday. The new normal or the next normal needs a different kind of a skill set. So the skill set which will make us employable. When I was in CAT Center, as you know, there was a clear thing saying that, are you employable? And we are talking about engineering students coming from engineering colleges. And we found that only the survey said, in one of my speeches, I told the freshers of the college, only 8% of these engineering graduates, when they come out, are employable. And that's a very, very low number, right? So these students have to become really employable because they need to adapt and learn at the college level, at the university level, to these changing technologies. And that's what is the value proposition we are doing with the help of institutions, with the help of ventures, with the help of financial institutions, and also MSME institution by itself has given a huge opportunity of funding, and it's becoming it's given an opportunity for a cluster for economical and educational growth. And that is possible because education spaces, as Dr. puts it, have got a lot of FSI, which can be used for other activities, specifically for research, because in India, research is still taking a backspace, although a lot of changes are happening in the last few years. Research is still at a backplace than the adoption of technology, and as well as what is the industry is adopting from the research. So it has to flip, where a lot of the research has to come from the university, and the university has to go and adopt it to the institution, so to the industry, and the industry has to be able to adopt those changes very quickly. And if we need to do that, we need to identify and collaborate with the needs to be filled, with the skills that are to be filled up. And then a secured governance or a development model has to be put in place. And that's where the financial model comes in. And the secured model basically is to create a cluster where the industries are involved, the academia is involved, the industrial companies which bring in technology like us are involved. And then all together, we bring in a model where the development happens. For example, if you want to make a part today, and if you want to make a manufacturing of a product today, it takes weeks, months, and things like that. Those days are gone. Today, you can develop a product in even weeks, less than a week, or even hours, depending upon what a product is, as long as the design is ready. I'll talk about it a little bit from now. So basically, education, self-sustained education for national growth is going to be a key driver for tomorrow's economy. And industrial relations, combining students and expansion to gather industry experts into clusters is also going to be a very important factor. Now, as Doctor puts it, it's about taking the idea to a process and finally generating revenue, and bringing industry into all of this is going to be, again, a key driver. So you have a bright idea, you have a product, your design, your Atmanirbhar, but you need to put it into process, because 90% of the startups fail because they're not able to execute. They don't have an incubator. They don't have somebody to handhold to execute that project, and therefore they lose. And today, we don't have that. There are so much of possibilities of the business process, basically the incubation cells available. And that is what we're talking about. You have a design, come back to somebody, come back to us. And today, we saw last week in IIT Madras, the huge initiative by the Defense and Aerospace Department, DRDO. DRDO is saying that has now defined the business process they want. They have defined the products they want. It's up their website. And they have created a technology development fund, TDF. And there's a huge technology fund available for startups and businesses to take that up and generate revenue out of that. And they are giving a clear design process, a clear value proposition, milestones, and bringing industry along to achieve that. And we are here as industry to provide the technology. And people say there's a gap in technology, gap in skill, but there is a technology available. It's about how we are able to use the technology. So just about looking at how businesses are planning to adopt post-COVID, acceleration of digitization or work processes says 84%, and provide opportunities to work remotely is 83%. And almost if you look at the top 5, 50% say about automation of tasks. So automation is becoming a huge phenomenon post-COVID. And then the digitization of upskilling. and acceleration of the people about using digitization. Your grandpas and grandmas never used WhatsApp, never used an app to order Zomato to Swiggy. Today, they're all using all of them today to listen to music, to listen to streaming, to Netflix, to watch movies and whatnot. So everything is coming digitized today. And the top 4 or 5 categories are put up here. Accelerate organization transformations are also happening in a very, very big scale. And upskilling and skilling, reskilling are becoming even more important. So the world transformed in digitization. The world numbers are in front of you. 4.2 billion are on social media today. Out of the 7.83 billion, 4.2, that's 53.6% on social media post-COVID. And this is a huge, huge number. And this is the global number. What about India? India is also digitization. In fact, digitization is now being changed to digitalization, which is now everything is becoming digitalized. And out of the 1.39 billion we have, 32% in population, 448 million are on the social media, 624 million are on the internet, and almost like 1.1 billion mobile connections. I'm just coming backwards, and you can see the huge transformation which is happening in the mobile, internet, and social media space as of 2021 January. So what do we do in this scenario? The startup ecosystem, I believe, will drive 10 trillion economy as per the research from this Startup India model forum, which says the Indian ecosystem will bring in $315 billion in value. And they're the third largest ecosystem in the world. So Mansi, for the financial part, there's a huge opportunity to bring finance into the picture, because 55,000 startups are needing help to go through this liquidate, to go through this possibility of growing. They're all bootstrapped. Some of them are all bootstrapped. They need a huge platform to even grow their finance and also being able to sustain in the long run. And the next generation, or the next unicorns who are creating value, are all the startups about 180 billion in value, and there are 150 unicorns are going to come up. And how is it all going to happen? Because the 1 trillion economy is going to come from the startups, the unicorns, which are 621 billion coming out of the Indian startups in the next by 2025, or the next 3 to 4 years. And which area is actually growing? I'm going a little fast because we need to focus on this skill and also the technology part. The enterprise technology, whether it is SaaS, which is 44.8%, software as a service, is becoming the key driver. Human resources technology, human resources was not on paper. Now it is becoming more and more applications, platforms, and software, performance evaluation, and so on and so forth. And Salesforce automation is also becoming an important factor. Salesforce, like you have today in CRMs and other things for sales strategies, are even becoming more important. You can, the minute you finish a sales call, you can log into a mobile device, tell your boss about what you're doing, where you're doing, and you can see exactly whether the orders have to be booked, and your order back-end people can do the ordering or do the order booking for the customer and get on to the sales quickly. So that's also changing dramatically. And when it comes to deep tech, the area which I'm focusing on, 3D printing, 28% of all deep tech startups have been funded, and 700 startups are coming up. And in the 3D printing scenario, on the additive manufacturing scenario, there's again a huge opportunity. As I just said, the biggest budget in terms of lakhs of crores have been allocated to the defense and the aerospace in 2021. And whether it's DRDO, Ordnance Factory, the Army, the Indian Army, all of them have set up huge technology funds, and all of them have given emphasis on manufacturing, design, R&D, innovation, a lot of these. So people are listening to this great platform of Policy Times. Please look up into the possibilities, the immense possibility technology and automation, and the strategies about today is available out there. And all of these, tell you a little bit about what Industry 4.0 is. And I'll just focus, give you a break on what KPMG is talking about it.
The fourth industrial revolution has begun, and you have the chance to be part of it. This isn't going to be like before. It's not about the steam that powered our factories in the first revolution, or the mass production model that dominated the second, or even the emergence of computer-driven systems from the third revolution that we're living in today. Industry 4.0 is about connectivity. It's an opportunity to radically change the way industry responds to the needs of society. As previous industrial revolutions were led by innovations in manufacturing processes and systems, the advancement of Industry 4.0 will be driven by a smart, interconnected, pervasive environment. The opportunities for disruption are huge, and those left behind will feel it acutely. There is still space for leaders of this new revolution to emerge, but the race has already started. Understanding what current leaders are doing will help you join them. KPMG formally examined what those trailblazers were doing in their factories and their offices, and it revealed some thought-provoking findings. Our research highlighted a number of areas that current Industry 4.0 leaders are focusing on. Leaders are planning ahead with clear strategic vision, driven by performance and tying investment to proven opportunities for growth, progress, and innovation. They are focused on discovering how smart products and processes can be developed. Integration is key. The major players are moving away from isolated silo-driven development, which limits scope and value of new projects. Instead, they are moving towards large-scale and proactive integration across their enterprise and among their customers, supply base, and products. To ensure they are aware of every possible opportunity Industry 4.0 technology has to offer. And perhaps most importantly, they are not afraid to think big and act bold. This means nurturing innovation, developing disruptive thought processes aimed at devastating the status quo, and looking for opportunity in every element of their value chain, from which products are designed and how they are produced, to who they are sold to and how they are purchased. Your organization may be radically different in the future, with a range of products, services, and processes you can't currently predict. Do you want to join the leaders of Industry 4.0? Can you afford not to? Then our advice is plan ahead, fight radical change with integrated radical action, and embrace the fact that it's time for manufacturers to step up and start making smart, bold moves. If you don't, you could be left behind.
So that's a little bit about Industry 4.0, and there's also about the model factory. For want of time, Mr. Akram, can I just skip this one?
Yeah, you can show it.
I can show it. Okay. So if you just allow me to do that.
The manufacturing industry has undergone significant revolutions. Now, the industry is entering the exciting Industry 4.0. It is a transition powered by data and automation technology that can transform every step of the manufacturing process, from the supply chain and enterprise to the shop floor and end users. The goal is to drive productivity and innovation and empower businesses in an integrated, data-driven manufacturing environment.
Asia is now occupying or has in fact taken more than half the global share of the economy. And with that, global companies have started to base not just manufacturing, but even local product development and designs within Asia in key locations, including Singapore. We do see that the need to move up the value chain for manufacturing, the adoption of Industry 4.0 concepts is going to be a lot more pervasive. For the central government, the manufacturers domain is one in which we are very clearly committed in, having committed close to about 3.3 billion Singapore dollars, which is roughly about 2 billion euros, to fund public-private partnership R&D activities between the state through agencies such as A-Star and the private sector in Singapore.
The A-Star Model Factory is an immersive learning environment which allows companies to experience and experiment with advanced manufacturing technologies before adoption on the factory floors. This is a platform for co-creation and co-development between private sector companies and public sector researchers.
So just to bring this into perspective, Mr. Akram and Ms. Mansi, so it's basically the partnership between private and industry, the academia, and of course the financial institutions, which is going to drive all these Industry 4.0 concepts with technology. So what I'm trying to say is, you said about the trader, but it's not the average trader today. All of these factors which you have in front of you is going to deeply affect, because we are on Industry 4.0. So whether you're talking about Swiggy, or whether you're talking about average fresh supermarket down the road, or whether you're talking about manufacturing, there's a huge disruption happening, and additive manufacturing is driving that disruption in terms of manufacturing in a big way. And in our country, I think the manufacturing part is going to take up a big chunk of economy in the coming years, and which I found a cert in terms of the value and what Dr. Sekhar said, and also the education. So just emphasizing the major amount of money is actually coming out of manufacturing. And if you look at the 3D printing adoption curve, the companies which are really doing it is about classroom 3D printing, 3D printing in retail, supply chain, and medical devices. All of them are moving away, and slowly about the manufacturing side, in toolings and fixtures, dental, binder jetting, and material extrusion, and metal 3D printing, and even industrial and enterprise 3D printing is really driving. And a lot of service bureaus have come up, and a lot of people have started offering services in 3D printing as well. So as of the last couple of years, the adoption curve has changed from Gartner, and you can see that there are slow changes happening in this domain. So this is going to drive Industrial 4.0 or Industry 4.0. 3D printing is going to drive that in a very flexible, intelligent, and autonomous way. And behind this scene, out of all this, is basically the smart factory. And to bring this, what's possible today is like you can do parts for tooling throughout the enterprise. Dunlop in UK is doing this. They can now print parts. They can save thousands of pounds every year. And also companies are early adopters in metal printing. Bentley, Toyota, Rolls-Royce, Harley-Davidson, and Porsche, and all are saying that we can now do things which we have not thought we can do earlier, and we are now saying yes to everything, and we are not saying anytime no. So design has changed, manufacturing has changed, the financial model has to change. So over to you, Mansi.
Thank you so much. So Mansi ma'am, let us take the final concluding remarks from both of you, starting with Mansi ma'am.
Thank you, Srikanth sir. Very, very valuable inputs. As I earlier said, that trade needs a revolutionary change, and as I told in the earlier also, that we need a complete automation. We need a complete automation, and that ease of business need to be given to the SME sectors to boom.
Yeah. So there's a little bit more on the kind of things which are happening today, Akram. You want me to just throw light on that?
Right, please.
Just a couple of slides because I don't know about the time factor. So if you look at the future of additive manufacturing as to what is possible in manufacturing, you can see we have the technology of atomic diffusion additive manufacturing, which is basically driving complex. You saw that the red car and then the other color car or a different model came. And that's all possible today because you can do parts on demand. And the recovery is faster than when parts break, operate less with hand-on inventory, money for transporting fewer parts around the world, save money from transporting fewer parts around the world. For example, Airbus used to shift a lot of parts to the hangars of different airports. Now what Airbus is doing is they're actually shifting or actually installing 3D printers at the hangars in major airports which they have a base, like in France or in India or in UK or Europe or wherever. And then if a part is broken or if a part is needed, that particular code, which is a digital part, is decoded out into the hangar and it is printed at the Airbus hangar out in that airport, probably let's say Singapore or let's say anywhere else, and then it is fitted onto the aircraft and the aircraft flies in 48 hours. So that's a speed in which the response times have reduced a lot and supply chains are disrupted because logistics got disrupted because of this in a big time, and lead times have become very different today. And then you can see this is as fast as you can design. You can print, you can wash, you can sinter. Sinter is basically, curing, and then finally molding it and putting it in a platform to heat it up and finally use it in a big form, and then to strengthen the material, and finally you can then use it now. So these are some of the strong parts today out of additive manufacturing, which now the startups can easily do with the embracement of technology, research institutions, which is again my advocation for the platform today. The cluster which Dr. Sekhar proposed is the most important because these examples of strong parts are being shown to bring up the confidence of these people, startups and the industry and the research to say that anything is today possible with simple platform. All you need to do is just imagine it, design it, and being able to print and make this. So within the Asia Pacific, there's a 20% change onto additive adoption of additive manufacturing, and there are a lot of end-use parts which are slowly coming in, and 48% is happening in US. And if you look at the end-use parts, prototyping, tools and fixtures, and maintenance, you can even do spare parts for automotives and other things which are now even evolving. And a lot of additive manufacturing geometries are now coming up, and there are wide technologies which are now available. I think there's no doubt of this technology available now in India. Using this, we can now make for defense, make for aerospace, make for any manufacturing industry, automotive or anything else today. So look at the parts we are now available in terms of steel, stainless steel, or whatever it is. So just a quick glance about this, not to just go technical, but just to tell you that metal printing is arrived, and we are offering that in a very, very comprehensive consulting way to the industry. And the benefits almost are endless. There are top 10 benefits if you look at it. It's very scalable. It has disruptive. So you can do small parts which you have not thought about before. The cost of entry is very, very short. You can have a small room and start a factory in yourself. You can save material wastage, because additive manufacturing is not subtracting any material like subtractive manufacturing, but you're adding on to material, and there's absolutely no wastage and saving energy. Prototypes are costing much, much lesser in dollars than in thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars before. Small production runs are possible. You don't need so much of inventory, easy to recreate parts and assembly into one part, and also improving part reliability and structures. So this brings me to almost the end of this part, and saying that the most important factor, which Dr. Sekhar beautifully said, is to bring about the cluster. So MSME is ready to fund, the industries are available, the clusters are all in fragmented form, but if we can all bring them together in one platform, as Mansi, people like you or strategic financial planning are needed to bring them all, and we are there to help you to bridge the gap between technology and sales and finance, and create a huge portfolio, the 1 trillion economy, and it's easily possible in the next few years. Over to you, Mr. Akram.
Thank you so much, Srikanth, for the really comprehensive overview on how we can revive back manufacturing with the help of automation and 3D printing. I'll not take any more time. I'll request Dr. Sekhar to give some closing comment, and then with that we can close the program.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Akram. Thank you, Srikanth. Thank you, Mansi. It has been an excellent, orientation. The idea behind this series of web summits we are having is to give confidence to a common person that India is safe, world is safe, with all this onslaught of this World War III, which has disrupted, which has pulled us away from whatever we are all doing. And that is for even an optimist like me has to agree, the type of disruption of a negative grade which has happened. But when people like Srikanth and Mansi are thinking in terms of how we can do and putting it practically on the ground, practically with facts and figures. Okay, even today's thing, not only the fact of sales and making skill development and making the 3D printers from a very different angle, even though 3D printers is a particular item, how generic it can be, how it can be used for people to abuse the growing of the economy. And same way, from Mansi's point of view, how funding can happen, how some of the problems in funding also has to be addressed. That's, of course, nothing comes as a cakewalk. That has to be addressed. But even with the problem, how we can grow. Because growth has to start, growth has to restart. That's why we are calling this a global reincarnation program. And thanks to both of you. And I'm sorry that I couldn't come in the beginning. First 10 minutes I missed. But, I could somehow come into a place where there is signal. So I said I will join. And of course, Akram is always there. Akram is the founder editor of the show. And he's always there as a development man and wants to do something good for India, good for the world, and good for all human beings. Thank you from my point of view. And Akram, you can formally conclude.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sekhar. Thank you so much, Srikanth. I'll be extremely happy to take all those strategies and formula that have very nicely presented. We have to be the manufacturing hub. From the presentation we've made, my fear is with this kind of technology, any tiny country can be the world manufacturing hub. They can disrupt the global manufacturing chain. In this place, while we need to create massive amount of jobs, this also gives us immense amount of possibilities that we can bring in manufacturing much more aggressively. So I think with this help, we can make even the backward states like Jharkhand or Bihar can be the next manufacturing hubs, and develop the national value chain within the nation. So
Mr. Akram, because you brought up Jharkhand, I want to say something beautiful. Just few days back, a youngster has developed a small electric vehicle out of Jharkhand, and he's put it as made in Jharkhand. And this vehicle can run 45 kilometers uninterrupted, and it's there on the internet. And I forget the name of this guy, but
that's very famous.
Yes, made in Jharkhand, and you mentioned Jharkhand, so that's why I brought this up. So e-vehicles are being made in Jharkhand today, and it's also written on the vehicle. Actually,
absolutely, this is the possibility that we can explore. So, viewers, if you like development journalism,